Hello once again, everybody, and we have made it to the end of our long journey here, the end of Season 2. We've got one more race to go, Abu Dhabi. We were pretty comfortably in third place here, barring some serious magic. Lewis Hamilton will finish second ahead of us, and we are a full 50 points clear of Leclerc behind us, so we should be pretty comfortably set in. Now you can check the development, you see how we've flatlined, but so many other smaller teams have taken some big jumps in the last few races of the season. We've fallen pretty far down the development order, but on the flip side, we've spent pretty much all of that trying to get our adaptations done. So we should be set to go at the start of the next season. Before we head off to qualifying, we're going to take a peek at and see at the health of the gearbox. It's kind of in borderline territory, and I still want to close out the year pretty decently, accumulate as many resource points as I can. So we're going to go ahead and throw a new gearbox on and head off to qualifying.
Here we are at the beautiful Yas Island circuit, where qualifying is about to begin. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the action. I want to talk briefly about the strategy in these qualifying sessions. Anthony Davidson, how can a driver adjust their approach to gain those critical extra tenths of a second?
Well, qualifying isn't about adjusting your approach necessarily, it's more about trying to repeat a low fuel run that you've practiced prior to this session. You're looking for perfection on the lap, and that's hard to achieve if you're trying something new. There are some variables that can stand in your way, however. Track position or unexpected yellow flags, for example. Coupled with ever-changing track conditions, it's important to be out there at the right moment. But as a driver, you have to try and ignore these distractions and just keep your mind focused on that one perfect lap.
Alright, here we are out on the Abu Dhabi circuit right next to Ferrari World and into our second flying lap of Q1 as we come through one of the toughest braking zones off of that double right-hander. Carrying a lot of pace, a very unsettled car coming around that corner into the braking zone, but we're definitely improved over our first Q1 lap here. See if we can turn in a better time, see where we can get on the board now. We aren't going to be as comfortably through the sessions because, you know, as you saw on the development chart, our car is not dominant anymore. Let's pop ahead towards the end of the session here. We've fallen down 14th on the order, so sitting right on that cut bubble. But as we rocket into the next braking zone, we're about 5 tenths up, about a half second up. A little bit of a lockup through there, but managed to get it down pretty cleanly. Now the second of the long back-to-back DRS straights. Really the best passing opportunities on the entire circuit. Unfortunately with Abu Dhabi, a lot of right angle corners and not great long runs into braking zones aside from those two long straightaways. So not a lot of overtaking opportunity outside of the DRS zones. And unfortunately, once you're through Sector 2 and out of that DRS zone, you're pretty much stuck through this whole section of the lap just kind of playing follow the leader unless you can get a really good lucky run on somebody who comes out, you know, a little bit of wheel spin out of a corner. But we are about 3-4 tenths up, cheat and a half second as we cross the line. See where that puts us, see if we can get into Q2, and there we are, 13th, so just barely into Q2. You can see the other cars are definitely performing well. So we've hopped ahead, tail end of Q2. Didn't even bother putting on the mediums because I knew it was going to be an absolute struggle to try and make it through, and I wanted to, just in case, save those mediums for later. Because it does look like, at least through practice, this is going to be a two-stop kind of race, two mediums and a set of softs, regardless of what the strategy looks like. So not going to be an opportunity for us to run a one-stop, but so we're going to pop across the line, see, can we get into the top 10 shootout here? No, we are 12th, so on the plus side, we get a free choice of tire, and you know the grid penalty is going to roll us a fair way back in regards to the race there. So we're gonna pop in and now actually make our gearbox change. I'm just kind of taking a peek, seeing how all the other gearboxes fared throughout the rest of the season, where they were kind of at, because I wasn't quite sure if we were gonna hit a fault page, but you know, once you're in the mid 60s and 70s, you know, it gets dangerous. So the gearbox can definitely jam. So we go ahead and throw on a new one and see where we start after penalties and everything.
It's twilight here in the United Arab Emirates and twilight also on another Formula One season. It's been a captivating story throughout the year, but will we see one final dramatic twist before the end? We have 21 corners here at Yas Island Circuit with 10 to the right and 11 to the left. It's a total lap distance of 3.4 miles. Two long straights open up some passing opportunities into the chicanes, and we expect average lap speeds of around 123 miles per hour. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Now, can I get your take on Max Verstappen? They've had a fantastic campaign. It's been a wonderful year, and they come into this weekend's Grand Prix as a fully deserving champion.
I agree it's been a truly impressive season, but championship or no, I don't think they'll be gently cruising around to the finish line. In fact, with points no longer a concern, there's a lot less to risk, so we may even see a more aggressive approach.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Perez, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Ricciardo, Sainz, Gasly, Verstappen. They've taken a grid penalty, and Lando Norris, Stroll, Albon, Romain Grosjean, and Magnussen. Russell, Oldtimer, Devon Butler and Kimi Raikkonen. Vettel and Lucas Weber completes the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Okay, let's finish the season with a strong effort.
So 16th on the grid for this race, pretty far back, but you can see the recommended strategy. 2 mediums onto a soft. I'm going to adjust the stint length just to get off the mediums just slightly earlier. Each one shorten, come in 1 lap earlier, go 9, 10, and then do 9 on the softs at the very end there. But you saw on the track map, into turn 11 is really the last passing opportunity of a 21 corner track. So not a lot you can do at the tail end of this circuit. So you got to make those passes count early. But here we are across the line here. Getting off pretty decently squeezed to the inside by Butler, but pretty safely through. Russell and Magnussen kind of battling next to each other there, so we're going to have to kind of get out of the throttle into this fast sweeping uphill downhill section. We're going to go ahead and look to the inside. Russell kind of bumps Magnussen to the inside, so we're going to have to dive way in. And we have a little bit of contact with Grosjean there, so mixing up with both of the Haas teammates there, but we're able to just kind of work our way around him. He's just on the outside, but we kind of pinch him out on the exit. Managed to make a couple of positions off on the start there. No damage, luckily, with him turning in through that chicane on us. But yeah, the way George Russell kind of pinched Magnussen down to the line, he had to kind of make evasive action. We really had to hold our inside of the track there. But we get a good run on Stroll there. A little bit of a lockup into the braking zone. We're going to try and turn up our ERS and see if we can't make a position on him without having to wait till DRS is enabled here, but we've got it cranked up just a little bit too far back, so we're going to go ahead and get on the brakes nice and early, turn our ERS back down, start saving some of that energy. And now that was turn 11 there. Now it's time for us to basically settle into where there is no room, no run to really make any passes happen. So unfortunately it's a bit of a processional track in that regard. We are going to try and get out of the throttle a little bit earlier on some of these braking zones, do a little bit of lift and coast, save some fuel that we can turn up later on in the race if necessary, if we get the opportunity to utilize it. But the heavy fuel load kind of caught me out there into that braking zone, still getting used to it, and Grosjean is pulling up around the outside of us. Is he going to be able to make the move? We're a little bit later on the brakes, but we outbrake ourselves and kind of shoot off the outside there. But no harm, no foul. He's not able to get through. He's still hounding right up the back of us there as we're really fighting the car through those S's. We're able to hold it down nice and comfortably and keep that position off in front of him there. So one more lap before we get DRS. There's a pretty significant train formed up ahead of us. We are P13 at the moment, so we do have a lot of ground to make up to try and get back into the points. Now starting this far back without the big performance advantage is going to be tough, and Here comes Grosjean having another look at us down the outside in the braking zone. Kind of hold fairly steady. Little bit of a lockup on those medium tires, but we're able to just hold him off. And that puts him in danger of his teammate, Kevin Magnussen, who looks like he's making his way through on the medium tires there. It looks like he's completed that pass behind us. So they're going to continue to fight their way through into the next braking zone. Side by side they are once again. Hopefully they can keep fighting, give us a little bit of breathing room behind us so we can start working on catching Lance Stroll as we take out the bollard. Ran a little bit over the track there, so we did pick up a corner cut warning there from the stewards. But now, once again, just kind of tuck into the train, not make any mistakes, try and keep ourselves right up on the back end as much as we can through this section. Now, one thing I'm going to have to look into, especially at the start of next season here, with all the upgrades to our downforce, our car seems to run low pretty much all the time. A lot of sparks, especially compared to the other cars. So we may have to start raising our ride height a little bit, which I don't necessarily want to do, but I feel like some of our handling is a bit compromised by the amount of dragging that we have going on here. You see, even in mid to low speed kind of straightaways, we're still getting pressed against the ground and dragging that under tray and kicking up a lot of sparks. But now for the first time, DRS is enabled, so we're going to try and have a go at Stroll here. You see that wing flip open as we cross that line. Let's see if we can close the gap on him. We're running up, catching his toe just a little bit, sprayed with sparks all over, but not quite enough to make a move there. Didn't quite close the gap, but on braking, we managed to close up a fair bit. So let's go ahead and take out another bollard because I don't like them. They looked at me funny during practice. I made sure to take them out then, so we're going to go ahead and take them out now. And here we are, next DRS zone. The two cars ahead of us are squabbling a little bit. Looks like Stroll has made his way past, I believe that's Alexander Albon in front. Yes, it is. But once again, with lap 3, we aren't able to quite make the move through DRS zones, and we almost run into the back of Albon as he gets on the brakes early. But we are going to have to settle in and try and just wait our turn before we get back to the DRS zones, which is just excruciating because this section of the track is so tough to get a rhythm in. It's just very 90-degree turn, 90-degree turn. I mean, the Russia circuit is kind of like that at the tail end, but it's only like 3 or 4 turns. This one is, 5, 6, 7 turns all in a row. Basically, the last 10 turns of the circuit, you really have no opportunity to make any kind of overtake. But so we've got to kind of settle it in, get the nose through these corners.
We're leading our teammate by 4.3
Thanks for the update, Jeff. Unsurprising that George Russell's back there. He's really, as the car developed, he really just kind of languished towards the back of the grid. Season 1, he showed some promise and, out-qualified us from time to time. But Season 2 here, he's really just been off the pace while I've been picking up a lot of podiums and race wins. He's been barely making it into. So we're open DRS, but caution is out, so we have to get out of the throttle. We cannot pass in the yellow flag zone. So even though we had a stellar run on Albon there, we had to get out of the throttle, and it really cost us an opportunity to make that overtake as Lando Norris blows up in the final race of the season. But here we are, next DRS zone. Let's see if we can make it stick here. I was really hoping to be in front of him, but he's kind of guarding the inside. We're going to dip way inside. Late on the brakes, we kind of go a little bit deep. He's going to go back up the inside of us, but we're going to kind of battle our way just past him. We kind of overshot, outbraked ourselves. A little bit of impatience after having to back out because of the yellow flags with Norris blowing up in front of us. But we do make the pass stick, and he's kind of settled in. And now we've got Verstappen and Gasly fighting with each other. Lance Stroll right in front of us, and that is for points just ahead. Oh, back end steps out just a little bit there. That's part of the reason why the tire deg is so high around this track. There's so many low-speed corner exits that it's really easy to burn up the rear tires if you're not careful. Let's see if we can settle ourselves back in. As the early phases of this race, a lot of action so far. And see if we can't get ourselves set up to make a move down the next part of the DRS zones here. So we come out of those fast sweepers into the chicane, leading into this big hairpin at the end of the circuit, and we'll get on that long straight. But we are tucked nicely in behind Lance Stroll here. We should be able to get the power down nice and early, and you see that wing flip up, and see if we can't catch some of the draft on him. But he's got Gasly in front, so he's going to go around the outside of Gasly. We're going to look to the inside, go 3 wide into the braking zone. Little bit of a lockup, managed to keep the car pretty safe. Not a huge lockup, just kind of some smoke. But we managed to go side by side through Gasly, through the chicane, and take care of that position on him. And now Stroll managed to get a little bit of a gap in front of us by having a much cleaner braking zone, but we are able to reel him back in on the next DRS straight as we were within the 1 second. And again, a little bit of a lockup on that front tire. So definitely not time to move the front brake bias forward yet. The tires aren't quite getting that worn. But this course asks a lot of your sensitive braking foot, especially this right-hander right there, to try and keep the tires alive, because you're gonna burn up the rear tires with all the low-speed exits. It's just gonna happen. So you really have to try to manage the front tires, try and not lock them up as much as possible. And honestly, the front left gets really beat up because there's a lot of easy ways to lock in the braking zones of those 2 chicanes at the end of the straights, and then a lot of very high speed left-hand turn, or right-hand turns rather, that really loads that front left tire, right? Like this one here. Not a good opportunity to let that tire cool down, but we are reeling in Stroll, and we should be able to have a go at him. He might still be in the 1 second of Verstappen, I'm not sure. So we'll see if he gets DRS as well, but we've got a good exit out of the corner here, tucked up nicely. He does not have DRS, so we should be able to have a pretty easy time going by him. So we're going to get fully past and then get onto the proper line for the next braking zone. Now a little bit of a lockup is going to allow him to close back up onto us, and he does have the opportunity for DRS on us, so we are cranking up fuel deployment, ERS deployment, just to try and hold that position and hopefully get enough straight line speed into the braking zone, which we just barely do, and manage to hold him off through the next DRS zone. So now is our opportunity to try and make some good runs through this slower section and close up the gap to Verstappen in front. Now he's being held up by Norris's teammate Carlos Sainz there, and Pierre Gasly, I believe it is. That might be Ricardo. Might be Danny Rick. I haven't seen the number just yet. I think it's Gasly behind us. Yeah, it is Danny Rick. And Ricardo first to dive in off of those soft tires. Stroll is running the mediums behind us, but we do have a couple of softs in front of us as well. So we'll see how the strategies kind of shake out in this regard. We should be able to put on a couple extra laps against those soft tires and hopefully make up some good ground here. But Sainz has a big lockup into the chicane. We have to get way out, lose a ton of momentum as Verstappen has to get on the brakes to avoid colliding, but hopefully that'll allow us an opportunity to make a move on Sainz down here in the DRS zone. Now we'll probably have another 3 wide situation coming into this next straightaway here. So Verstappen is going to go inside. We are catching the draft on Sainz. We aren't going to be quite close enough to go 3 wide, so we are going to move to the inside, kind of follow Verstappen through, and just kind of fight side by side with Sainz, leave a little bit of room, but we do manage to get cleanly past. And now we're going to pop open the DRS again, crank up that electrical deployment. Can we make a move on Verstappen in the next braking zone? We have a little look to the inside, but not quite enough space. Little too far back to make it so. Turn that ERS back down, recharge as much energy as we can through this section of the circuit, and maybe we'll be able to make a run on Verstappen next time by. We're on lap 7 of 28 here, so is that about a quarter of the way through in the early stage of this race. He should be having his tires start to fall off now. I'm definitely starting to feel a little bit of wear on these mediums, just the high deg of this track really eating up the tires. Now, unfortunately, I took a look at running a potential one-stop as Verstappen dives in front of us and running mediums onto hards, but the hards were very, very much off the pace. But so here we go, hopping ahead, lap 9. Stroll still pretty much hounding us the whole way, but we are going to go ahead and jump in and try and undercut. We're going to grab our first fresh set of tires, go from mediums onto the same tire. We're going to keep the mediums alive. And let's see how much of the field shuffles past us, how much we've gained throughout that pit cycle. 9th, probably 10th, 11th as we cross. Let's see. Fall way down the list, 12th and 13th. now.
Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross over into the track.
Go underneath the track through the tunnel. And we are coming back out in 14th, so we definitely have a lot of ground to make up. We didn't quite get too much advantage of running the medium tires out of that first stint. Pretty much everybody's going to be running a two-stopper, but we are going to have a slightly faster tire throughout the tail end. I believe most people started on the softs, and there's only a couple that are running the medium soft. So we're going to go ahead and jump ahead a few laps. Lap 12, we're pretty far back from Sainz here, but we've got DRS. And we're rolling. We're going to get on the brakes. Not quite enough space. He did move a little to the inside to cover a move if we had made the lunge, but we had already turned down our energy deployment to save some into that braking zone. But now we crank it back up, get that DRS opened up wide once again. And we're going to look to the inside on this braking zone here. Hold. Little bit of lockup, but we managed to just barely send it past Carlos Sainz. We're up into 8th now as a few of the other runners have popped in. The leftover medium runners have made their stop. So after pit cycle number 1, we managed to get up to 8th, which isn't too bad. We're in the points essentially. But we have definitely got some ground to try and make up on the car in front of us. Ricardo is still running pretty quick on those softs ahead. It looks like he went 2 softs onto medium was his race strategy. Unless he's going really crazy and running a 3-stopper. That part I'm not sure of at this stage.
The gap to the car ahead is 2.7
Thank you, Jeff. 2.7 seconds to try and close up, so about at 1.7 to try and make the DRS range. But hop ahead 2 laps, lap 14.
Gap to the car in front is
And we have the
6.5
damage
seconds.
panel pop up. Rear wing DRS disabled temporarily. So luckily we're running about 7 seconds behind the car in front, so we're not really in danger of needing the DRS at this moment. But it is something they are going to have to work on a fix remotely. But we've pretty much held position in that regard so far. Still being hounded by that Racing Point and that Renault behind us. It's mostly kind of what we saw in our mirrors this entire race so far. So we're going to go ahead and hopefully by the time we get up to the cars ahead, or if we're in a battle, that DRS will be fixed. But not ideal. But let's hop ahead at lap 19 now. We have essentially on strategy taken over first place, but Valtteri Bottas has already made his final stop. We are going to be coming in for our final stop. You heard Jeff make the call out to box this lap, so we're going to go ahead and make the final 9 laps on the soft tires, see what kind of ground we can make up. But by running the 2 mediums, we are essentially the longest runners early on, and we're able to shuffle and lead a lap. So, you know, no points for that, like in NASCAR, but it was kind of nice to be at the front of the field once again. And I believe at this stage our DRS has kind of fixed itself, but Valtteri having a pretty stellar run, and he's just moved to the inside of the track here. See if we can hit the limit line pretty smooth and clean and jump in to grab our final set of tires. Get on those softs. We'll see where we pop out once we hit the track again. There you go, the red walls are on there. The burnout marks are still there from our previous stop. And down underneath into the tunnel once again, one last time for this season. And see where we can come out. So we're going to get on the throttle nice and hard and try and race our way off as we've got a couple of cars coming around the corners. We managed to come just ahead of our teammate, George Russell, who's had an all right race so far, it seems. But that means we're probably down in 13th or 14th. But I do believe we have made our stop just slightly earlier than some of the other runners. So we should be able to pick up a couple of positions based on our final pit stops.
Hamilton is ahead of you. They're on fresh mediums. Their tyres are 2 laps old. The time last lap was a 1 minute 40.
So P12 at the moment, and they heard it. Hamilton is done with his pit strategy, so if we're going to make that position, we are going to have to outright catch him. And there is quite a bit of ground to catch up. You see they're just coming out of that chicane as we are hitting the braking point, but 6.3 seconds to catch the car in front at the moment. We're really trying to push the car as much as we can. So hop ahead. Lap 22, a few more pit stops have been made, so we are P6, and that's kind of the last shakeouts of the the pit stop strategy. You can see Hamilton still ahead, 3.4 seconds now. So we managed to pick up about 3 seconds in 3.5 laps or so. But we do have about 5 laps left to go, and he is on medium, so he is not going to degrade the same way that we are. We've still got some life in these softs, but we are going to have to push real hard in order to close that gap. So 2/10 through the first sector, essentially. 3.4 seconds now. We've still got George Russell behind us in P7 on his medium tires. But essentially pretty clean for us, not have to worry about the car behind. So a lot of ERS management for the rest of this race. Set the deployments high during these long straights, and then once we get off of these 2 DRS zones, to really dial back that electrical deployment, save as much energy so we can use it once again on the straight. So hop ahead a little bit further, lap 24 coming through. We're going to cross the line here, 2.8.
Catch the car in front, but we need to look after the tires. We won't be making another pit
Thank you,
stop.
Jeff, for the update of I need to make sure my tires don't fall off. I'm kind of aware of that one. You see we're running in that overtake mode through this first full sector. Basically, I kind of worked it out as I was running my chase down time is run overtake through sector 1 and then run either overtake or high through the next 2 straights. And then once we get to the final sector, crank it down to medium to recover. So another little jump here. Lap 26, you can see Hamilton just in front of us. Can we close the gap? Let's see what our split is now. 1.6. So we are almost in the next DRS range here. And this sector 1 is really one of our best sectors on the course. We cover these S's very well, much quicker than we were actually pretty consistently setting purple sector 1s, even when other cars were setting fastest laps. But we really didn't have the great sector 2 or 3 to go alongside it. But here we are closing on Hamilton. Not quite close enough through sector 1 to get that DRS, but you see we are reeling it in just a little bit more each time. And he's got a car in front that he's going to have to contend with and is kind of fighting with. You can see him go side by side just ahead. It looks like Perez is going to still just barely hold that position, so that's going to help us out and give us an opportunity to try and reel him in, but still just outside of that DRS range. I believe at this point our DRS got fixed. I'm not 100% certain, but hopefully it is by the time we do close into that DRS range. You see the very quick left, right, left from that low front wing camera. Just how much change of direction that you really don't get a great feel for driving the car, but when you see those outboard shots, you can see just how much these cars can dance. And that's another one where I did have to take some balance out of the front wing because of those fast sweepers in sector 1. If you run a front heavy downforce setup in sector 1, the back end will absolutely try and swap on you and spin you out through that, especially that right-hander that kind of crests the hill. But 0.9 back on Hamilton. It's the final, or second to last lap. And it sounds like Bottas has some issues out in the lead of the race, but we are still within a second, so we should be able to make a move through DRS. It is the final lap of this race here. So can we make it work? We've burned a little bit more of our energy. You can see we're down about 28% battery charge, but at this point it's go for broke. Use everything we have. So we cross that line, open that wing up. Now he's going to be battling with Perez in front of him, so we aren't going to have a clean run on him, but can we reel him in just enough? Not quite enough into the first braking zone, but we've definitely closed the gap. You see we are all over that gearbox. So now if we can just get a good exit off of that chicane, open that wing wide open, we're going to try and tuck into the slipstream, grab as much aero help as we can, but just not enough to get to him in that braking zone. But we are right up on the tail, and we are really just trying to look for a way past. Now, you really, again, not a great overtaking opportunity. You see getting on the throttle so early, spinning up those rear tires, and at that point, it's just not enough traction, not enough launch off of a corner to really run past Hamilton, even though we ran basically right into his gearbox there. So we are pretty much settled in P6 for this race. Bottas manages to hold off for the race win there. Looks like 2 Red Bulls will take the other spots on the podium. Sergio Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th in front of us, and we are in a Racing Point sandwich essentially, with Stroll finishing right behind us in 7th.
That's it. What a season. Great work this year. Really great work. It's been hard at times, but we've come through.
That's it for another Grand Prix and a fantastic win for Mercedes. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes. Some amazing talents out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
I have to say Sebastian Vettel certainly caught my eye during today's race. Incredible driving.
The Constructors' Championship may be a foregone conclusion at the moment, but regardless, let's look at the standings. And it's another title in the bag for Red Bull. After a long and hard-fought season, they built an astonishing car this year, and the glory they'll be taking back to Milton Keynes is fully deserved. Meanwhile, Renault move up the table with another strong performance this weekend. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
See the strength of that Red Bull car, taking 2nd and 3rd, but Mercedes getting another win for this season. George Russell just barely coming in, picking up 1 point, but we managed to move up 10 positions over the course of the race. Vettel had a great race, moved up 11. But that is going to be the end of this particular season, so we'll go ahead and take a peek at the standings and see how we did over the course of the year. I mean, obviously, drivers' standings, we know that we're going to be 3rd. Pretty much locked that in. And there we are. So we finished about, 21 points behind Hamilton, but Bottas moves clear of Leclerc, and we managed to hold them also. Better than I expected personally. I was expecting to be kind of like 6th or 7th in the drivers, but P4, best of the rest constructor on the season. If just a couple more points from George Russell, we could have moved up to 3rd.
I'm sure you're
it was
pretty happy
close.
with that.
Hi, Claire.
Did you struggle to get through all that traffic today?
Oh, no, there wasn't really a struggle. I just I pushed pretty hard, and, that's what it took.
Some excellent overtaking moves from your former teammate today. Did he learn some of them from you?
I accidentally hit no comment. Sorry, Claire. I guess you're going to be upset at me.
Well, thanks anyway.
Bye. All right, so here we are back in the garage. So we're going to go ahead and just take care of our contract for next season. Luckily, with the way our car lines up in the development chart at the moment, our expected qualifying and race positions are pretty far down, and that's definitely not going to carry through at the start of next season. So we're just going to upgrade the pit stops and nail it on the first try.
It seems all parties are happy
I'm sure
with the deal,
our
so it'll commence at the next
I'm sure
race
our
week.
contract after race 4, after Baku, is going to be much different, because again, we are going to go ahead and pop in. We pick up our end of season R&D points. So we are going to definitely have enough to clear up and make sure we have full clean adaptation. So we shouldn't take any steps back coming into the new season. So we'll just slap on these last few aero developments real quick and make sure that they are all good to go for next season, and see how much we have left over to develop anything new for the season. So 1,200 points, so a bit to work with. But we are kind of back down with Toro Rosso and Haas right now, but I'm sure there will be a big change coming in. So we are going to go ahead and throw about 600 points at this gearbox development, because we still just weren't quite enough. But that is going to be the end of Season 2, and kind of have a look at our final results. Definitely more podiums than I expected. I wasn't expecting to podium a bunch. I was expecting maybe 4 or 5. And amazingly, 2 wins at the tail end of the season here before other cars started developing and catching up. But we're pretty much right there. So thank you guys for joining me. I will catch you guys next season.